Psychology of Intelligence Analysis by Richard J. Heuer. The Psychology of Intelligence Analysis is a classic book that examines the psychological factors that have an impact upon intelligence analysis, including bias, group dynamics, and cognitive limitations. It provides insights on the importance of structured analytical techniques, diverse perspective, and the role of uncertainty within intelligence analysis. Let's go! Hi and welcome to the BookLab. I'm Björn. This is a place where we bring you the best book recommendations when it comes to philosophy, psychology, human nature, and human potential every week, so make sure to subscribe. Today we're talking about Psychology of Intelligence Analysis by Richard J. Heuer. And in this book review I'm going to share some key takeaways and also some additional readings if this kind of subject is right up your alley. Analytical thinking is a practical skill. Quote, "Thinking analytically is a skill like carpentry or driving a car. It can be learned and you will improve if you practice, but this is not a skill that you learn from a classroom and just by being instructed. It's learning by doing. Suspend your judgment for as long as possible. This is because you want to have as much information as possible before you do so. This is because when judgments are done, they stick. Convictions are hard to change once they exist. But that said, don't overvalue the importance of more information. Studies show that an increase in information leads to an increase in confidence in your conclusions, but more information actually have a negligible impact on the accuracy of your analysis. Oftentimes, testing more hypotheses is more important than gathering more information. The one most important technique for creative thinking is called deferred judgment. This concept it dictates that we separate the idea generation phase from the evaluation phase. Get all the ideas on the table before you start making judgment and evaluating them. This is because quantity leads to quality. Thinking should range freely in order for us to get all ideas out of us, and this technique also allows for cross-pollination of many different ideas, leading into others that build upon the previous ones. Mental schema. Quote, "If information does not fit into what people know or think they know, they have great difficulty processing it." A mental schema is a mental structure that an individual uses to organize knowledge and guide cognitive processes and behaviors. People use schema, that's plural of schema, to categorize objects and events based on common elements and characteristics and thus interpret and predict the world. Psychology of Intelligence Analysis provides a great example of how mental schema work. Chess masters and ordinary chess players were given 5 to 10 seconds to note the position of 20 to 25 pieces placed randomly on a chessboard. Both the masters and the ordinary players were alike in their ability to remember the position of the pieces. They remembered about 6-7 pieces each. But if the pieces were taken from an actual game, and this was unknown to the subjects, the chess masters were able to remember almost all positions without error, while the ordinary players remembered only half a dozen pieces. The exceptional performance of the chess masters was due to their ability to recognize relevant patterns that contained relevant information to their expertise, and this is a mental schema. Here's some great advice for looking at your own thinking. Quote, "The most probable hypothesis is usually the one with the least evidence against it, not the one with the most evidence for it." My favorite takeaway from Psychology of Intelligence Analysis is Richard Heuer's tips on how to unlock creative blockages, because I run into them. Maybe you do too. One tip that he gives us is that we should leverage time. The passage of time allows us to see new connections. The second tip that we get is to force ourselves to talk out loud. Say it out loud. Ask yourself questions and try to answer them. The reason why this tends to unlock creativity is because written word and spoken word is processed in different parts of the brain. Switching between writing mode and talking mode allows us to use different parts of our brains, and it seems to help us unlock new creative ideas. Reading books like this improves your thinking, maybe because they kind of erode the false confidence we all have about how rational we are, because it highlights all the shortcomings of the human biology, our way of thinking, and how prone we are to misjudgment. This book is specifically aimed towards people who work with intelligence. That is, people who analyze information to allow us to understand and mitigate and neutralize threats. That's probably not most of us. Hence, this book is not for everyone. I actually struggled quite a bit with this book from time to time because it's quite dry and it becomes very technical at times. But don't turn off the videos, because I want to share some other books that will help you improve your thinking, that I think is more general and accessible for regular people who are not working with neutralizing threats towards our country. But before I do that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like and share. It helps me reach more people with great books. And if you really want to support the BookLab, join my Patreon. I'm actually giving away books there as well to all my Patreons. So this month we're going to give away The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, one of my favorite books of all time actually, and I will ship worldwide. So if you're in the Patreon program, you will have a chance to win this book. I have 0 patrons right now, so you will have a 100% chance at this moment at least. So check that out, there's a link in the bio. The books that I want to recommend, Nassim Taleb's book. I only have Anti-Fragile here. I really like his book. He talks a lot about making predictions, uncertainty, randomness, and how it impacts our life. I think his book Black Swan is really good. Anti-Fragile might be my favorite. So Nassim Taleb is someone to read if you want to level up your thinking and decision making. Another book that I really found fascinating is Stumbling on Happiness by Daniel Gilbert. Do you think you know what makes you happy? This book argues that humans are exceptionally poor at predicting what makes us happy in the long term. And reading this book will help you avoid some common traps that get you stuck in life and actually focus on the things that really matter for a happy life. So this one helped me a lot in prioritizing my life. Another part of making better decisions is to understand what kind of techniques people use at you to influence and manipulate you. And learning about them will help you avoid situations that you might regret that you agreed to at some point. And I made a video about this, the best books on influence and persuasion, including Influence by Cialdini, a classic, The Psychology of Persuasion, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and also Never Split the Difference, which is about negotiation. So check out that video right after this. I have a link to that in the description below as well. And for all you video buffs out there, I want to recommend my favorite video on YouTube ever. Warren Buffett has his sidekick or his partner, Charlie Munger, who has made a great talk about human misjudgment. I think it's called this on human misjudgment. I'm going to put a link to that in the description below as well. I think it's about an hour long, but it's one of the best videos. He also talks about ideas from this book, for instance, and just talking about the different cognitive biases that makes humans so prone to misjudgment. I'm back next week with more book reviews, and I'm going to review probably Never Finished by David Goggins. So tune in next week and see you then. Björn out.